Yo, what's really good, man? It's your boy, man, SNS Talito. Follow me on Instagram at SNS Talito. Follow me on Twitter at SNS Talito. I'm on Facebook at SNS Talito. Got this new video series I want to give to y'all, man. This series is entitled The Wire. So in this series, I'm going to be breaking down how the TV show The Wire is solely connected to many different things in society, as far as just capitalism as a whole and how the world functions within itself. So that's the one thing I'm gonna talk about. That's the series, man. The first episode is called Trump Barksdale, and I'm gonna talk about how Donald Trump relates closely to an Avon Barksdale that's on the show The Wire. So since this is the first episode, it's gonna be a little longer than the others, so I'm gonna start it off like this by giving you a little context behind it. So first thing I want to talk about is how I started watching The Wire. So I was in Cincinnati with my bro JL for a little bit, and I'm saying I had just lost my job. I got fired. I just wanted to get away, so I went down to Cincinnati, and I stayed down there for just a couple of weeks. I was just chilling, you feel me, just getting my thoughts back together. And my homie JL suggested, like, he was like, never seen The Wire? And I'm like, no, I've never seen The Wire before. This is before I had ever seen this. It's only 2015 maybe. So that's when I binge watched The Wire, and that's the first time I really seen the show and got introduced to it. But since then, I've gone back and I've rewatched it several times, and I just looking at all the intricacies and all the nuances that take place on this show. And every time I see it, I get something different from it. So it's always something to be able to connect the things, with media and art. Being able to connect art. Because art is a reflection of reality, and reality is a reflection of art, of course. But that's how I really got started to watching The Wire. But just being able to just relate it, the first thing that I can relate The Wire to is one thing is like in the educational system. So going to high school, The Wire has that season where they talk about education and how the education is failing the students. And I can relate that to my own education, being in high school, going to Mansfield Senior. And if you went to Mansfield Senior, then you know what I'm saying. They used to always say, we 351 out of 354, something like that. We were almost last on the list back in high school. So, and being able to like take those standardized tests in high school, but also having to take these ACT tests, trying to go to college, huge difference. And The Wire kind of breaks down how with these standardized tests, how when they grade people, if you're passing, you're really failing. And if you think you're advanced, you're really just on another level. You're on the level you're supposed to be on. And that's one thing that definitely relates to The Wire to just, my experience. But as far as like the difference between high school and college, I would say high school teaches you a bunch of generalized information, and college is more based on examining that information and being just giving you the stories and the history behind the information. Like you take social studies in high school, and it's like, what's the definition of capitalism? What's the definition of socialism? What's the definition of a monarchy? It gives you those broad, ambiguous terms and never explains or gives you examples of these different entities that do exist. So that's the difference I say between college and high school. But even in college, you don't learn everything, because the biggest question that is not taught in education is why. And I feel like shows like The Wire, and they explain the why better than any school, and life also explains the why.
Show of hands, how many wrote MBA?
Yeah, but only for the Lakers though.
I want to be a pediatric neurosurgeon like that one nigga. What's his name?
Ben Carson.
Yeah, that dude.
He's a leg surgeon.
You want to be a surgeon, you need to go to medical school.
What up?
How many wrote down dead?
Shit, you saw that coming, huh?
Shame y'all have so little time and you're wasting it here with us.
When you compare The Wire to just any show or just history in general, you can always find similarities, because The Wire is very close to real life. It's one of the most realistic shows that you can find. So they treat death like death is not nothing. I'm saying people don't die and you don't hear from them no more. You don't see how they died and shit like that. You know. The Wire examines this in season 5 is the media and how it creates these ambiguous messages and all these messages that are false and they're spreading false information and how that is used to influence people and how it pushes people into like gangs and cults and things like that. It's just a way of life, a way of thinking when none of it is actually true in the first place. And it talks about just how certain individuals are pulled into the different stereotypes and they start to believe them and they internalize it and how that information is used to create people, you know, giving people a created reaction that society wants it to have in the first place. It's just like how the media will examine a fake terrorism story, how there's many cases of where you see a terrorist attack, and if you really look into that attack, you see it's funded by the CIA or shit like that.
Small city just soaking and drowning in poverty. Somebody offers you a large chunk of change, what do we gotta do?
This operation was specifically designed to turn them into terrorists.
And that's another connection between The Wire, which is another reason why I'm using it. But that's enough context. I'm gonna get a little bit deeper into it because when you think about it, the thing that I'm a musician, so I do music. One thing that you can connect The Wire to, if you want to look at capitalism in a nutshell, is hip hop. And the reason why you don't have as many J. Cole's, Kendrick Lamar's, Talitos, I'm saying, Chance the Rappers, I'm saying, people like that speak on, I'm saying, more like Childish Gambino, that speak on like more serious issues is capitalism in a nutshell. If you think about it, sex, drugs, murder, sales, you know, and that's just the way it is. It's sensationalized. It's the same way with media. Why they fabricate stories. It boosts people's attention. They're less likely to pay attention to something that is actually true. You know what I'm saying? So that's where you get all the false reporting and the false narratives in society, and it's used. There's always a reason behind it. And if you look at capitalism, what's the reason behind it? It's to sell you as much as they can. So now we're gonna talk about why this episode is called Trump Barksdale. So it's an episode in The Wire where when Avon is in heavy beef with Marlo, and Avon is talking to his soldiers like, y'all ain't got nothing to do but be on this hunt. That's what Avon said, y'all got nothing to do to be on this hunt. What Avon was trying to do was he was trying to establish his reputation. Now, none of y'all seen Trump going through all these allegations, impeachment. He's been taking a lot of fucking hits in the media and all of that type of stuff. So he's like, you know what I'm saying, I gotta go out with a bang. I gotta change the narrative. I gotta show my strength. You know what I'm saying? He was weak for a while. Same thing with Avon. He was in jail. You know what I'm saying? He was down, but when he got out, he came out and I gotta be the man. So Trump is coming out of this impeachment like I gotta show y'all that I'm the man, and that's where you get all the Iran stuff and you get all of that. So Trump basically telling Iran, we gonna see who got the bigger war chest, because he knows that he has the army and all that. But as you see in The Wire, having all this firepower and just everything, being able to kill and not care about it and things like that are never the way to success, because people die behind it, people go to jail behind it, and it all just feeds the system. It feeds the story, the narrative, which is the media. So it feeds them. That makes great press. You think the media ain't happy that we're at war right now? They could write so many stories about we're at war, what happened. Within this war, they can fabricate all kinds of things, little fake terrorist attacks, everything. Media is happy, and that's capitalism. That's how it's connected within it. So it only benefits the system at the end of the day. Also, another thing, if you think about the Trump and Iran situation, same thing with The Wire, you gotta look at it as far as turf wars. That's basically what's been going on within like The Wire and also in the world. You know what I'm saying? Turf wars. It's just like if if you know the history of Europe and Spain, and when the Moors came into Spain, it was a turf war. The way the Moors went into Spain, they took little by little, but when they were pushed out, they also were able to have strongholds on certain places, but it's a turf war. Same thing as in The Wire with Avon and Marlowe. How Avon wanted his corners back when he got out of jail, and Marlowe knew how important it was to own these corners, because if you own the corners, then you own the distribution on the corners, you own the location, and you're able to gain a sense of power by owning certain things. And that's history has always been something about turf wars and resources, which also just relates back to the larger issue, capitalism. And The Wire kind of illustrates how all these solutions, like how capitalism was a solution, and how people see socialism and communism as a solution, and how all of these different entities come into play. And even if they are starting to give you the change that you do desire, as far as if you see like Canada and Denmark and all of these different places that have like free education, and they don't incarcerate as many people as America, and places like that, you see those places, and it's more more liberty, you know what I'm saying, more freedom. However, the behavior is created from the capitalism that does exist in the world today. So nothing is perfect, and any solution that you do find, there's still going to be a backlash, kind of like communism. When Karl Marx was talking about communism and how all these communist states have failed to really demonstrate how communism can be effective, which again is the narrative in the story. It's able to give you more confidence in the system as far as capitalism. One thing that he said is that people wouldn't be fulfilled with the work that they were doing. So people wouldn't see themselves within the work. People would go to jobs only for the money. They wouldn't work hard because they didn't have any interest within the company. So that's one thing that he said. One thing that you can say about that, you can compare that to, is with The Wire, you can compare it to characters like Bodie. You can compare it to characters like Monk, characters like Chris, characters like Weebay. The way you can compare these characters is that they were characters like Omar. You can compare it to that type of character. The game fulfilled them. They felt like they were kind of meant to be in the game, and by them feeling that they belonged to the streets, it allowed them to be good soldiers. It allowed them to take instruction and be able to survive on the streets. And all they wanted was for the game to be played the right way. That's the same thing with just in life in general. If you don't see yourself in the work, as you can see, each character that started to not see themselves in it, that saw the rules get totally just destroyed, they started to stray away from the path. When you see those things start to happen, like when Omar, when his grandma was on Sunday, when they tried to kill Omar on a Sunday, it infuriated him that the rules were not being taken seriously. Same thing with Bodie, when the way that Marlowe was handling the corners, the same way with that. Only then did they start to stray away from the streets. But what I'm saying is that you have to see yourself in the work. You have to think that the work is meaningful in order for you to do your best job with anything in life. Another thing that Marx had a problem with as far as capitalism is that it made people insecure about jobs, and it made people insecure about being able to sustain themselves. So people never felt like they were going to get by, because they knew that the system can fire them and they were expendable. So at any time you can get fired, which is what you see also in The Wire. If you want to compare it there, you can compare it to things that happened as far as like when great cops like McNulty and great cops were put in different departments because they were trying to do good police work, or when politicians or police were fired because they were trying to do the right thing. And that's the insecurity that comes along with it. You have to go with the system, or you won't be able to feed your family, or you won't be able to survive, which creates more corruption within the system. The wealth gap is another thing that Marx talked about as far as with capitalism, and how these capitalists will skimp wages in order to make more profits within their companies. So you see that through everywhere in The Wire, how the little man is always disregarded. And we see it in everyday life as far as just with jobs, and how 1% of America has more money than 50% of America, or whatever the number is. So he was right there, but that also, you know what I'm saying, like I said, it goes right back into The Wire. So I'm gonna try to wrap it up a little bit here. So if you look at, there's a movie called Capitalism, A Love Story, where they talk about how capitalism has caused these great financial catastrophes as far as like the housing crash and stock market crash and all of these things that decimate people. And talks about how people have lost their homes within all of these things. So the same way that Karl Marx was not all the way right about communism, he was also very on the money with capitalism. As far as like, if you look at the Reagan era with trickle-down economics, they said that if we let the rich people make more money, then they'll be able to pay their workers more. They'll be able to fund more things, and they'll be able, the money will trickle down. So the more money that the businesses make, the more money that the worker will make. But that never happened. The wages were frozen. And again, you can compare that to The Wire as far as when you see these kingpins, and if you even look at it as far as like the Greek and these people when they were when they were working with Ziggy and those guys on the dock, where these people were using the drug money to fund their operation. However, they never felt satisfied within it, and the money never got them out of the situation. So Karl Marx was really a proponent about talking about how people will be really materialistic because of these ideas, and that's not what's important in life. And that's the prime example of the whole doc season 2 of The Wire, where these people were making the money to get out the game. They had enough money to where they could have used it in different ways. However, it was the game that kept them playing, and they couldn't escape the game. So with every character of The Wire. But that's episode 1, man. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up right here, man. Like I said, I ain't wanna make it too long. I know it's a little long-winded, but it's episode 1, man. But follow me on Twitter, man, SNS Talito. Follow me on Facebook, SNS Talito. Follow me on Facebook. Like my page. Follow my Instagram, SNS Talito. I'm on SNSbrand.com. The Cure is out right now on the site. SNSU videos, check those out. A lot more coming. Time Travel 2 real soon, but I'm gonna get on out of here, man. SNS, let's go.